The upside down death. All right, for our first trip into the dark and damp, we're heading to Mendip, England, to a place called Swildon's Hole. This isn't just any cave. It's a massive 5.7-mile-long beast known for being a watery nightmare, especially when it rains. But surprisingly, it only has one recorded death. And trust me, it's a weird one. Let's go back to January 17th, 1959. A guy named John Wallington was in the cave, not for fun, but as a porter, helping the legendary cave diving group with an expedition. The weather was miserable, drizzle on frozen ground, which is the perfect recipe for flash flooding inside a cave. As the expedition was wrapping up, John, already cold and exhausted, started his climb out. He was on a rope ladder, and he was already suffering from hypothermia. His movements were clumsy, his body was shutting down. He slipped. As he fell, his foot got tangled in one of the ladder's rungs, and he was left dangling there, upside down, in the cold, wet darkness.
What happened?
His companions were nearby, but in the tight, complex passages of the cave, getting to him was a nightmare. They tried to free him, but he was stuck fast. The cold water was still pouring down, and being upside down just made the hypothermia worse, accelerating his body's shutdown. He was trapped in the most bizarre, horrifying position imaginable, and there was nothing anyone could do. John Wallington died right there on that ladder, hanging by his foot. It remains the only death in Swildon's Hole, a grim and lonely footnote in the cave's long history. It wasn't a dramatic flood or a terrifying plunge into a black abyss that got him. It was a simple slip, a tangled foot, and the slow, creeping cold. Man, what a way to go. The Death Trap of Porth i'r Ogof. Next, we're off to Wales, to a place that holds the grim title of the UK's deadliest cave, Porth i'r Ogof. This place is a monster. It has the largest cave entrance in Wales, a massive 56-foot wide, 17 meters, maw that swallows the entire Afon Melta River. It looks inviting, almost like an adventure park, but it's a finely tuned death trap that has claimed at least 15 lives. The most messed up part? 10 of those people drowned within sight of daylight. Let's talk about a few. In 1971, a 21-year-old medical student named Paul Heinz Esser was on a training dive with 3 others. He lost his safety line in the murky water and just vanished. His body wasn't found for 39 years. 39 years. They finally recovered him in 2010. He was just lying there, perfectly preserved in the cold, dark water, a ghost in the machine. Then there's the story of Graham Lipp, a 34-year-old instructor who died in 1992. He was leading a group of kids when one of them, a 14-year-old boy, got into trouble in an underground pool. Graham went in to save him and managed to get the boy to safety, but in the process, he became trapped and drowned. He died a hero, but he still died, swallowed by the same cave that's taken so many others. And it's not just civilians. In July 2002, Kevin Sharman, a 17-year-old apprentice mechanic from Derbyshire, drowned after his instructor, Matthew Doubtfire, in a moment of catastrophic incompetence, led the group into the dangerous Resurgence pool by mistake. Kevin couldn't swim, and when he realized he was in deep water, he panicked. He grabbed onto another recruit, but it was too late. The swirling water took him. Porth i'r Ogof doesn't care if you're a student, a hero, or a soldier. If you make a mistake, it will kill you. It's a place that demands respect, but it rarely gets it, and the body count just keeps on climbing. The Dead Man's Handshake. This next story, from the Yorkshire Dales, is one of the most famous and misunderstood legends in cave diving. It's called the Dead Man's Handshake, and it's a tale of confusion, terror, and a case of mistaken identity in the pitch-black, flooded tunnels of Keld Head. First, let's get one thing straight. The Dead Man's Handshake incident itself wasn't a fatality. It happened on February 5th, 1978. A renowned German cave diver, Johann Hassenmeyer, was exploring the system with a British team led by Jeff Yeadon. Deep inside the cave, Hassenmeyer got disoriented and briefly trapped. Yeadon, swimming through the murky water, came across him in a narrow passage. He reached out and shook Hassenmeyer's hand, but in the zero visibility, he was convinced he was shaking the hand of a dead or dying man. It was a chilling, terrifying moment. But Hassenmeyer, despite being in a bad spot, managed to find his way out and survived. The story, however, became legendary. The actual death at Keldhead came 2 years later, in November 1980. A young, relatively inexperienced diver named Mark Woodhouse was on a training dive with 3 others. About 330 feet in, he got tangled in the guideline. He managed to free himself and surfaced in a small air bell, but he was in a full-blown panic. Another diver was with him, but had to sort out his own buoyancy before he could help. In that brief moment of distraction, Woodhouse, in his panicked state, submerged himself again, presumably to try and get out. A few minutes later, the other diver found him on his back, his mouthpiece out, motionless in the water. He tried to drag him back to the entrance, but it was too late. Mark Woodhouse had drowned. It was a classic case of an inexperienced diver losing control in a hostile environment. The panic, the confusion, the cold, it's a deadly combination. So while the dead man's handshake is the story everyone remembers, the real tragedy of Keldhead is the quiet, lonely death of a young diver who just got in over his head. Rowten Pot Cave Rescue Disaster. For our final story, we have one of the most tragic situations imaginable in the caving world. This is the story of Dave Anderson, a 27-year-old volunteer with the Cave Rescue Organization in Yorkshire, and the first and only member of that team to die in the line of duty. It was the early hours of March 23, 1986. 2 potholers had gone missing in Rowten Pot, a deep, complex system known for its vertical drops and powerful waterfalls. Rowten Pot is one of several entrances into a massive 17-mile-long cave system that drains Kingsdale in North Yorkshire. The call went out at 1:35 in the morning, and Dave Anderson, along with the rest of his team, responded immediately. The conditions were brutal. It was a dark, stormy night, and the cave was wet and treacherous, with water levels dangerously high. Dave had been co-opted as an underground controller just the year before, in 1985. He was known as a tireless and committed worker, someone who would show young cavers around the CRO headquarters and explain the rescue procedures with genuine enthusiasm. On this night, he was part of a team searching the lower passages of the cave below the flood level. He was moving along a traverse line, a rope set up to help cavers cross a dangerous, exposed section above a gully. It was a routine maneuver, something he had probably done 100 times before. But on this night, with the water roaring and the rocks slick with rain, something went wrong. He slipped. He plunged into the gully below, and the force of the water, which was running high because of the storm, pinned him down and drowned him. The search for the 2 missing cavers was immediately called off, and the mission turned into a grim recovery operation for one of their own. And here's the part that makes this story even more heartbreaking. The 2 potholers they were originally looking for eventually turned up, safe and sound. They had simply gotten lost in the cave system and found their own way out, completely unaware that a man had died trying to find them. Dave Anderson was posthumously awarded a certificate of gallantry for his sacrifice. His death is a brutal reminder of the risks that volunteer rescuers take every time they go underground. They are the ones who go into the dark when everyone else is coming out, and sometimes the dark doesn't let them go. It's a hell of a price to pay for someone else's mistake.